continuing on really from that theme, sort of, is a guy who is the absolute master in getting rid of pain. Now, I first met him, I think probably about 5 or 6 years ago, not too sure. But the type of work that he did really fascinated me. He runs a website called Decoding Pain, and it was this talent that he had for ridding people of pain that they'd been suffering from, some for many, many years. And I didn't really have a need for those services at the time, but very shortly after I met him, I did. I had the misfortune of having adult chicken pox, which was not fun, as you can imagine. I contracted it maybe on a Thursday or Friday, and I was due to fly to America on Monday. The doctor said, "You're not allowed to leave the house." Obviously, I had spots all over my body, highly contagious. I had a session with this man, and he got rid of it in 48 hours. Which was just incredible. So I know he doesn't always shout out loud about his gifts, but he is somebody that is absolutely, truly gifted and has an amazing message to share. Again, someone that's very dear to me, so I'm delighted to welcome him down. He's come all the way from Witham in Essex to be with us tonight. I know. So please, let's have a massive round of applause for Jonathan Shaw.
Hello, good evening. How are you doing, all right? How do I get this off? Are we enjoying ourselves? Fantastic. I can't really compete with that, so good night. No. Yes, I did manage to solve Shay's chicken box. That was one of my weirdest ones I've solved. And as... Oh, hold it up. Oh, sorry, yeah. I told myself to do that earlier on and I forgot. I work with chronic pain most of the time, and if anyone's seen me speak before or you've watched me on video, you know that I do normally speak about chronic pain because that's how I started. And I started because I had my own chronic pain. And I'm trained traditionally in physio-type things, and I'm trained alternatively and holistically and all different types of things in ridding pain. But over the years, I learned to get rid of other problems as well, and that's kind of what I want to speak to you about tonight, because pain is just part of suffering. And I believe that one day suffering will be a thing of the past. That one day no one will suffer, no one will be in pain, no one will be ill, and we'll all wake up and live healthy, happy lives. And that sounds like a very wild thing to say, and people probably don't believe that, but I know it's possible because a lot of the time all I'm really doing is getting people out of suffering, whether I'm working with chronic pain or a virus or depression or anxiety or panic attacks or another illness or a myriad of things that I've treated in the past. The one thing that runs within all of us is what's going on up here. Not in my head. In your heads. That'd be silly. So the one thing that's the problem for most people is what we're thinking about. Our past traumas, our emotions, our beliefs. And the problem is a lot of people are very worried about dealing with these things. Some people, they don't want to go there. They don't want to deal with it because they think there's something necessarily wrong with them, or they're broken or they're damaged. That's not the case. In fact, you're just not being you. That's the problem. The problem is that when you're suffering with something like a past trauma or memory or emotional response, you're actually being pulled out of being who you really are. And that's the problem with people today. We're walking around and we're not being who we truly are. And everything I've ever treated, the root cause of all of those problems has been past traumas, past memories, beliefs and emotions. And so I often work with people where other things haven't resolved the problem before. So if you've tried things before and it's not working, I often get people come to me when it's not working. If it's worked, that is fantastic. I loved Denisa's story. Denisa, sorry, I'm not good with names. I love Denisa's story. She healed her body through nutrition. That is fantastic. If it works, brilliant. People come to me when what you perceive you know you should do, when you've tried all the traditional things, you've even tried holistic things and alternative things, you may have even tried to get rid of your thoughts and emotions and been unsuccessful. When you've tried to do those things but it hasn't worked, what do you then do? Well, over the years, I have learnt so many amazing things, absolutely incredible things, that I would love to share with all of you, but I only have 10 minutes. So I can't share all of it. But what I want to do, I want to share a formula I came up with to explain why we do end up suffering, why people generally end up with problems like pain, depression, anxiety, panic attacks. I was speaking to a lady in the audience, and she wants to speak and do public speaking, and she's having emotions, she's struggling to do it. Why does that happen? There's actually a formula for it. Now, obviously, I can't reach into the audience and heal everybody. It's not like, yes, I can't do that. I know I look like Jesus, but that's as far as it goes. Actually, I'm kind of going for a cross look between Jesus and Santa in his early 20s. Sorry, I can't do water into wine, ladies. Oh, she's disappointed. I'll meet you later. We'll discuss it. But there is actually a formula for why we suffer. And this is what I use when anyone comes to me with a problem. If you've tried things, this is how I help people. And this is one of the ways I help Shay get rid of her chickenpox. Basically, what happens is we all have a trigger. We get triggered by something. And this trigger then leads to a memory or an emotion or a belief. That memory, emotion, and belief then leads to a perception about ourselves or the world around us. And then that creates a problem. So let me give you a very simple example. I often like to use, examples of people I've worked with recently. I had a lovely young girl come and see me. In fact, her boyfriend brought her to see me, which is very unusual. It's usually the other way around. But I actually solved her boyfriend's anxiety. And she comes to me and she's suffering with depression. And she's been suffering with depression for many years, since she was younger. And she really knows what's caused it. And she's been trying to deal with it. And she's been trying to cope with it. But it's now in her head and she can't get rid of it. She's been to the doctor and the doctor given medication that, in her case, wasn't working. If it works, that is great. Whatever it is, if it works, great. But in her case, she was really upset. And she tried other things and bits and pieces, and nothing had really worked, so she was very, very sceptical. It's okay, I love skeptics. It's brilliant, because as soon as I change something, they go, how the hell did you do that? And it is just like magic. And I did used to be a magician, so that's even better. I really did used to be a magician, so that's cool. But today what I do is a different kind of magic, because this girl, after one session, and this actually made me cry, after one session, she had a big beaming smile on her face, and she said to me, is this what happiness feels like? Now, I cried at that point, because that was so sad that she hadn't experienced true happiness. That, to me, was a crime, and that should not happen. So I really want to show you that suffering is not necessary. She'd been suffering for years with this problem. She was very nervous, and with a very quick time, short time, we got rid of one of her problems for her. She came to me the following week, got rid of another problem for her. And she left galloping out, beaming, smiling, couldn't believe how happy she felt. This happens a lot. Now, I'm nothing special. Don't get me wrong, it's not me. It's just things I've learned on a system that I actually created. Well, I say created, I kind of stumbled upon it. I stumbled away to literally switch off trauma in your mind, to switch off the negative beliefs and the negative emotions that create the problem. And yes, you can literally switch it off. So you switch off the negative and you switch on the positive, whatever that may be for you. So another example, and the best way I can explain it is through examples, because I can't do it for you now. I wish I could. I wish I could switch everything off so your pain, your anxiety, your depressions go away now. If I could do that, I'd be a millionaire. That'd be fantastic. But I can't. So all I can do is give you examples. Another example is I met a guy a marketing course recently, and I actually knew him from previous, and he was the speaker at the conference, and he saw me in the audience, and he said to me, Jonathan, what's shoulder pain mean? And I was like, deer in headlights, what's going on? He just didn't know what to say. So basically, shoulder pain from a trigger point of view is a burden or something that's weighing down on us or stabbed in the back. But I went up to him afterwards, and he said to me, I've got frozen shoulder. I've been told I've got frozen shoulder. He'd had it for months, absolute months. And he'd been to physio, and the physio was working on him, and he'd been 6 weeks, and no change whatsoever. So, and he knew about the trigger work, he knew about the shock, and he loved it. He thought it was brilliant. So he'd never used it before, because, like Shay, he didn't need to until now. So I literally found the shock. How long do you think it took me to get rid of the pain? Any guesses? 15 minutes. 15 minutes. All his pain freed off, completely disappeared, and he had complete range of motion on his shoulder. This guy could not wrestle with his children because his shoulder hurt so much, and that was the biggest problem for him. He struggled with that, and he wanted to be a good dad. He couldn't do his weightlifting and his training, and even while he was on stage, I could see he was really frightened of his shoulder. And he'd been told some dreadful things. He'd been told it was because of his diabetes, and it's because he had an accident when he was a kid, and he'd been told all these things that didn't really work for him. But it only took 15 minutes to switch it off. Now, don't get me wrong, not everyone is that fast. I think it took a couple of sessions with Shay, and sometimes it takes a few months. But most of my clients I treat, they get better within 1 to 2 months. I'm not trying to show off or make it sound like I'm fantastic, but I don't want people to suffer. That is the main thing. You do not have to suffer with your problem. The main reason people suffer is because they get told something that's not true. And if you are told something that's not true and you believe it, you then think, oh, well, nothing can be done, I'll just live with it. And that's what most people do. They live with it. They live with it, they suffer, and they do what they think they can, but they end up suffering. And I see these people, maybe if they find me and they come and I'm able to help 90% of people I see, which I think is pretty good average. That's doing okay. So you do not have to live with your problems. I've suffered with things in my past. I had my own chronic pain. I suffered with depression at one point, and I was able to switch it off, fortunately for me, because I know this information. But when I learned this thing about 4 years ago, it really transformed the way I work with my clients and how I'm able to help them, because I can literally switch off what's going on in the mind without having to re-traumatize you. And you don't even have to go back to the past. We can do it from a present trigger, so you don't have to worry, and it's much less emotional, and it's far quicker. Another example is a guy that I saw recently, and he had tremendous social anxiety, but mainly around relationships. And he's in his 40s, and he's had it ever since he was a teenager. And he's had trouble talking to women and dating, and he was having all types of problems. And with a few short weeks, literally 8 weeks, all the anxiety disappeared, and he's feeling much more confident going out and able to speak to women. She's got attitude down there. She's like, bring it on. So you don't have to suffer. So does anyone, I'm not going to pick on anybody, but I'm not going to ask you specifics. Hands up in the audience, how many people have a pain, a health issue, a mental disorder? I don't like the word mental disorder. I hate that. You're not mental. A spiritual problem, a health issue, pain, anything like that? Great. And how many people have been told things that don't work for them? Fantastic. Brilliant. You do not have to live with it. That's my message. You do not have to suffer. It can be solved. The only question is, do you want to solve it? I know that I do, and I like to enjoy a nice, healthy life. I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope it's very difficult to inspire people in 10 minutes. And I have a lot of information. But thank you very much for listening. If you do want to speak to me, you can at the end. But please, my message is, don't live with it. Do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. So, before you leave the stage, why don't we tell this lovely audience how they can get in touch with you?
You can get in touch with me. You can go to www.decodingpain.com, or you can... Oh, she's going to write it down. That's fantastic. Brilliant. www.decodingpain.com. And my contact details are on there. My phone number is on there. My email is on there. My birth certificate is on... No. You can contact me on... Everything's online these days. You can contact me on Facebook. Just look at Jonathan Short or Decoding Pain and just speak to me. I don't charge anything for conversation. If you think I'm completely nuts, that's fantastic. But please speak to me, and I'll do my best to help you as fast as possible.
Thank you very much. Let's hear it for Jonathan, everybody.